Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everything is going well for you and yours. This is the portion of the show where we let YouTube send out the notifications via social media, let folks know that the broadcast is getting ready to start. We'll sit here and we'll count down the next 2 minutes before I push that button and go live. If you happen to be watching this on replay, go ahead and scrub past this graphic until you see my smiling face. If you have any questions and you're joining us today in the live chat, feel free to go ahead and add those questions to the live chat now, and we'll get to them in due course during this live Q&A session. So, sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and we'll get going in about 30 seconds. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody who happens to be down in Louisiana, Mississippi, down south there, maybe even as far as Alabama or Texas. Hope all y'all are doing okay there in the path of the hurricane. I don't figure you're probably listening right now, but when you do get internet access, hope everything is going okay for you guys, and hope everybody is safe. Hunker down and hang on to something heavy. This is never a good thing. Hopefully the folks who needed to get out of Dodge got out of Dodge and are doing okay. Let's see. We're sitting here in smoky Southern Oregon again. California, your air's in my yard. Come get this stuff and take it back down south with you, please. We've got a lot of smoke from the fires. We're nowhere near any fires. The closest fire to us is about 120 miles to our east and moving east. But everything should be all right as far as we're concerned. I see Steve Russell says I'm echoing. Look to see, do you have two windows open? Nobody else has said anything about an echo. If you have the show open in two windows, there may be a little lag between the two, and that may be the reason for the echo. If I am echoing, please, everybody else, let me know. I'm sure you would have by now, but that's the most common thing. Okay. Steve down in Mississippi says, no, there's no echo there. So, okay. All right, Steve, that happens. I have this show open in StreamYard, and I also have it open over on YouTube, so that there are certain things that if I try to type something in the chat here, like if I use the @ symbol to try to, key in so somebody it'll highlight their name, it won't do it on StreamYard. It won't give me the automatic person's name like it does over on YouTube. So I have them both open at the same time. I have to, while my intro is playing, I have to run over there to YouTube and mute that. Otherwise, it'll drive me crazy over here, and I sound even less coherent than I am now. So, with all that being said, let's get to it. Let's see what's going on out here. I've had a few questions about the Shop Shed project. It is progressing nicely. As I said something last week, the older I get, the more tempted I am to press that easy button And with every passing day, the closer that easy button gets to me, and it's less and less of a reach. So I'm going to cheat like a big dog. I found a flooring installer who is going to come by and install it on Wednesday for me. A little bit of side money. Um, I'm doing all the prep work right now. I have a couple of more seams to sand where the plywood joins in the subfloor. Then from there, I have the underlayment. I've got to lay that down. So that means I got to get everything, to include the table saw, out of the shed so I can lay down that underlayment. And I will be ready to start putting down underlayment tomorrow. Then he comes by on Wednesday and installs the floor. Then I've got to wait a minimum of 24 hours. Then I can load everything back into the shed. Then I've got to put up some trim, do some baseboard, and I am ready to start moving tools into the shop. This has been a long time coming. I cannot wait. I am going to be probably, don't quote me on it, but I think the wall sheathing and painting video will be the video for this coming Sunday. Let me look to make sure that that's what I'm doing. Yes. So that will be number 9, I believe. Update number 9 will be the sheathing and painting video. And like I said, I think you're going to be surprised at what material I used to sheathe the walls. But I explain everything in the video to let you know why I went that way. Brooks wanted to know, what have I chosen for floor covering? That's no secret. I chose a product called G Floor. It's a sheet vinyl product that's 90 mil thick that was made for garage floors and shop floors. And it's a textured vinyl for non-slip. The pattern I chose is called small coin. It's basically 3/4 inch diameter coins, about 19 millimeter diameter coins that are textured, and they're raised slightly, like about 20 mil above the base material, the base vinyl. And I did that for non-skid. It's wet here most of the year, and I don't need to be slip sliding around. But I also want something that's real easy to sweep and clean, to, get rid of sawdust and what have you. And so I didn't want to go with wood or laminate or anything like that. A sheet vinyl that's non-skid is what I need. So I've got that. In fact, I received that in May. I've been sitting on it for a while. And so I had to wait to get the sheathing up and get everything painted before I could install the flooring. Well, now that all the painting is done, well, almost all the painting, I got a little bit of touch up on the trim that I'm putting up. But other than that, that's where all that has been. So it is coming together. Should be about, like I said, about a week, maybe 2 from getting moved in. And then watch out. But I also have to say, I'm getting it put together just in time. I might be able to get a couple of projects done out there before I go on hiatus for the holiday season. With 5 kids and 6 grandkids now, what I normally do is right around November 1st, I put the channel on hiatus so I can get all of the Christmas gifts made, built, bought, wrapped, finished, everything, and focus on that without having to try to get a video out every week. Now, in the past, what I've been doing is a live Q&A session every Sunday, no matter what. This year, this is also a preview here behind Inside Baseball. This year, I'm having some major dental work done, and I probably won't be able to talk for a while. So when I go on hiatus in November, I may not be back until the 1st of January. We'll see. I'm not certain, but I've got to have some reconstructive surgery done and everything, and I just physically will not be able to talk. So, but I'm not exactly certain when that's going to be. I go in next Tuesday, as a matter of fact. No, I go in this Wednesday afternoon after the flooring is installed. They got to do a little bit of exploratory and what have you, and take impressions and all this other good stuff. So I'm going to be down for the count for a little while, but we'll worry about that later on. Also coming up, don't forget the Vectric online user group meeting is going to be, let's see, that is, I had it written down here. Yes, Thursday the 9th, Friday the 10th, Saturday the 11th on Vectric's YouTube channel. I will be presenting during this user group meeting. I'm not sure when yet. I haven't got the schedule, but I will be doing a presentation on two-sided machining with which I'm looking forward to. There's still a little bit of controversy about locating dowels, but that's all right. We'll get it figured out. So let's see. Let me cruise down here and find some more questions here. And there were a few. I know there were a few questions about how to, what type of a computer to get. And Michael has already answered the question. I mean, above and beyond. Let's see here. I got to find it now. Come on. Where's it at? There we go. Rob Sandstrom asked, he said, starting into doing more 3D modeling in Aspire and want to use the highest resolution, but my computer keeps dying. Time for a new computer anyway. Anyone have any suggestions for a computer to purchase? Michael Mazalik answered that question, and I'm serious about going above and beyond the call. He kind of went into the specs that Vectric lists. 2 gigahertz multi-core x86 or x64 CPU, 4 gigabytes of RAM with Windows Vista 7, 8, 8.1, or 10, 300 meg disk space for the program. And I would add to that. I would say get the fastest processor you can afford and stuff as much RAM as you can physically put in that case. I'm sitting on 16 gigs and I need to add more RAM. When it comes to using Cut2D, VCarve, or Aspire, don't worry about getting a high-speed, low-drag, everybody needs one fancy video card. The way the software is written, it does not access the GPU on the video card. It does everything through the processor and RAM. So if you need that high-speed video card for something else, then by all means. But don't get it thinking that it's going to help you out with Aspire, VCarve, or Cut2D, because the program just will not access that video card. Put your main focus into the fastest processor you can afford and as much RAM as you can get in there. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of resources to use these until you get into those higher resolutions. And as you said, you're trying to get into the higher resolutions, 50x, 50 times slower. Yeah, that does use a lot of resources. And it also depends on what you've got running in the background. So try to minimize that. But for the most part, it basically, like I said, goes with the processor and RAM. Let's see here. Kind of cruise down a little bit more. I know there were a couple of more questions on there. Brooks Martin says, look for the baddest gaming computer. That's what I did. I got a HP. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called. Um, the Gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but it came with a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070 video card, which is very, very fast card. And I use it for video editing. It helps a lot with video editing. Before, on my old computer, videos that were taking 45 minutes to render are now taking about 10. That video card is really something. And the 1070 is not even the top of the line. I mean, it's about yeah, you can get them for $400. But when I bought this computer, the thing was like an $1,100 video card. So it comes in handy for like video editing, audio processing, things like that, but it doesn't do a thing for Aspire. Let's see. We get down here. Okay, Reload and Shoot says, since upgrading VCarve Pro 10 to 11, I've had nothing but problems with laser. In 10, you can't edit. In 11, and it doesn't recognize it. Okay, that is something that is systemic in the Vectric software. If you design or edit something in version 11, version 10 and 10.5 will not open it. It's forward compatible, or excuse me, backwards compatible, meaning 11 will open up files that were created in 10 or 10.5. But 10 and 10.5 won't recognize and won't open a file created in 11. That has nothing to do with the laser. That's everything. Okay. That's just the way that software is. Now, if you're having troubles with you're saying version 11 does weird stuff with the laser program. I don't know. And maybe Michael can shed some light on this. I don't know if the laser module had an upgrade or not when version 11 came out. You may need to update the laser module. Whether you do or not, however, I would send an email to Vectric support. The program, the laser module may need a patch that they don't know about, or it may be an issue elsewhere that they need to work on, or can give you the workaround for it while they're getting a patch ready. But this is a case of, if they don't know it's broke, they're not going to fix it. So by all means, reach out to Vectric support. Just know that for them, this is a holiday weekend, so I don't know if they'll be back in the office Monday. It may be Tuesday before they get back. And also remember that they're 5 hours ahead of the East Coast and 8 hours ahead of the West Coast. So, like, when I get up in the morning, they're getting ready to quit and go home for the day. So, but I would definitely send them an email. You know, like I say, they can't fix it if they don't know it's broke. So, let's see here. We'll cruise down here and see if we can find some other questions. I know suicidal at all times. Okay, had a good question, but forgot what it is. But when using migrate, will it overwrite or does it duplicate the tools, post processors, etc.? It does not overwrite anything. It duplicates it. Actually, what it does is it takes that, like your tool database. It takes your old tool database, copies it, merges it with the database you have now in the new version. So if there are duplicate tools, if you merge that and you find you all of a sudden have 2 1/4-inch end mills where you used to only have 1, that's because a setting was different between the 2. If the settings are identical, it won't duplicate that tool, but it does not overwrite, it merges them. And in fact, I will look for the video. There is a video tutorial on Vectric's YouTube channel. It may be accessible through the help menu, but they show you, if everything gets all horked up, they show you how to find that default Vectric tool database. But fair warning, if you use that database, it will wipe out, it will not access any of the tools you entered. Okay, none of those tools that you have entered are included in that database. That's just the default database that comes with the program, which is just a few simple tools in each of the categories to get you started. But I will look for that and post a link to it down in the description of this video as soon as we're finished. Database. Okay, wrote myself a note so I won't forget to go look for it. But no, it does not overwrite anything. Let's see here. Oh, Bob thinks Linda's going to be happy about me not being able to talk. Well, you know, probably not. Okay. Chris Knorr wants to know, what are you or anyone here today doing to keep dust out of the computer? There's not a lot you can do. What I first did was I made up a little box with duct tape and furnace filters. I just made a little box that was open on the bottom that I could slip over the tower. But I discovered what I was doing was I was cleaning that puppy out so often, it didn't make it worthwhile. So now all I do is about once a month, I'll open up the case, blow everything out, close up the case, and drive on. I put more emphasis on keeping dust out of my controller box than I do out of the computer. Just regular maintenance and good dust collection will help cut down on any kind of dust getting into the computer. In fact, bigger bang for your buck would be to focus on dust collection, even if it's just a shop vac with a hose on a dust shoe, whether you make it or buy it. That's better than nothing. Now, having said that, no dust collection system is going to get 100% of every crumb off of the work while you're machining. What you're trying to collect is the dust, the fine stuff that's going to drift around and get sucked into the fans on the computer. The big chips are generally stationary. I mean, you know, there's usually going to be a little bit of cleanup. And by far the most dust is going to be from sanding your projects anyway. But I would focus on dust collection before I put any more effort into trying to keep dust out of the case. You can do a lot with filters, but the problem is you've got to clean those filters. So only you can decide how much effort is worth it to you. Because like I said, I figured, some cheap furnace filters, duct tape them together to seal them up and just slip it over the tower. That'll keep it from sucking in all that dust. Well, it did, but then I started noticing the filters collapsing. That's worse on the computer than a little bit of dust getting in there. So I don't even bother anymore. I just open up the case once a month, like I said, and blow it out with the air hose, close it up, and drive on. And it's been working for 6 years now. So, Okay, let's see. Okay, when it's kicked on, I take the fans out and wash them in the sink. Okay, it's your trip. Let's see. Brooks Martin wants to know, do you ever have trouble removing bits and the collet? No, because when I'm finished with it, I take the collet out immediately and take the bit out of the collet immediately. When you're cutting, and it doesn't matter what kind of material you're cutting, whether it be plastic or wood or MDF or plywood or whatever, there are resins in the wood. This is especially true if you're cutting softwoods like pine, cedar, fir, hemlock, things like that. There are resins and oils in that wood. And even though it may not feel warm to you, that bit is still warm enough to where when those resins that get vaporized in the cutting phase, they will solidify on the shank of that bit and on that collet. So if you are having trouble getting the bit out of the collet, remove the collet completely and soak the whole thing in some naphtha or I use VM&P naphtha, which stands for Varnish Makers and Painters Naphtha, or in a pinch, I'll use mineral spirits and just soak it, and it'll eventually break those resins down and you'll be able to get them out. Also, I take a nylon brush to the collet. When I'm done with it for the day, I take the bit out of the collet, I wipe down the shank of the bit, put it away. I take a nylon brush to the collet, then blow it out with the air hose to keep those resins at bay. If you run a project and let it sit for 2 weeks and come back, you might need a hammer. I've been playing the router game for too long. I, immediately pull that out and clean it up. So, let's see here. Acetone would work, but I wouldn't soak them in acetone. It'll remove all the paint off of like a V-bit or something like that. So, in fact, what we used to do at the cabinet shop and at the furniture shop, as a matter of fact, is we would take the collets and put them into a plastic, or the collets and the bits, and put them in a plastic bag and spray them with oven cleaner and tie it up and let them sit overnight, and then come back the next morning with a nylon brush like a toothbrush and just under the sink in the utility room, scrub them up real quick, dry them off, and then put a little bit of oil on them to keep the shanks clean and get all the crud off of there. But that was my boss at the cabinet shop. His answer for everything was oven cleaner. I mean, after running the wide belt sander, we had a 50-inch wide belt sander for sanding face frames. After we were done for the day, take all 4 belts out of the machine, take them outside, spray them up with oven cleaner, let them sit for an hour, scrub them down, and rinse them. That was his thing. Let's see here. Don L says, tried following your tutorial on modeling Mickey and not having any success using VCarve 9.5. Is there that much difference? I have never modeled Mickey. You sure you got the right channel? But you cannot create a 3D model in VCarve. That's the problem. VCarve is not a 3D modeling program. Aspire is the 3D modeling program. You can import a 3D model into VCarve, and you can rescale the size and thickness, but you're very limited when it comes to editing. But you cannot create a 3D model in VCarve. It's just not designed for it. It doesn't have the tools. So, But for a general question, is there that much difference between VCarve 9.5 and VCarve 11.0? Yes. You've missed a whole family, a whole generation of upgrades there. There's a major difference. There's several major differences. There are tool paths available in version 11 that were not even thought of in 9.5. Of course, I say that they were probably thought of, just hadn't been implemented. But so, okay, Michael Mazalik says the laser module has not been updated. Okay, so I would still shoot a email to Vectric support on the laser question. Let's see. Suicidal at all times. Has anyone had issues opening version 9 Vectric files with the newer version 10 or 11? I've never had an issue. No. So, Michael Keymont says put the CPU in an adjacent room, use long cables, wireless keyboard, mouse. That's an option if you have that available to you. I'm dealing with a separate structure that's about 70 feet away from the house. There is no other room. So let's see. Steve Russell says, when rest machining with a pocket tool path, does it make any difference how many different tools you use? For example, end mills, quarter, eighth, 16th, and 32nd. It's just machining time. I mean, how long do you want to spend and how much detail do you really need? That kind of comes down to the size of the model and where it's going to be. And this is what I mean when I say don't lose sight of the big picture on the model. If this is something that's going to be hung on the wall 20 feet up, are you going to see that detail? If this is something small that you're going to be holding in your hand, then yeah, maybe you want to use all those tools. It doesn't hurt anything to use all those tools. It just realize and understand that every tool path takes time. So you adding that, for example, adding that 1/32 of an inch tapered ball nose in there may add another 3, 4, 5 hours to however long the cut is. You're the only one that can make that judgment call on whether the additional machining time is worth it to you or not. So all I can say is, as you're cutting these projects, pay attention to how much elapsed time it actually takes, and then come back into the VCarve or Aspire file for it and look at their estimate and compare their estimate to what your real-time cutting was. And you'll see what is it called? Let me see here what it is called. When you, there is, oops, wrong one. Let's see, toolpath summary there. There is a scale factor. That's what it is. I couldn't remember the name of it. There is a scale factor that you can enter. So for instance, if it says it's going to take 2 hours and you cut it in 1 hour, enter a scale factor of 2 and see what it does to that time estimate. You're trying to get that time estimate as close to your actual cutting time. So that the software can better try to predict and estimate how long that's going to take. And that'll help you figure out whether adding that next detail bit is worth it or not. If you're going to go all the way down to a 1/32 of an inch tapered ball nose, for instance, you might not need to use the 1/16. You might be better served just going from the 1/8 to the 1/32. But you're the only one that can make that judgment call. You'll have to decide whether that level of detail, number one, is necessary. Number two, does it require 4 bits? And number three, does it give you the bang for the buck? Yes, it gives you more detail, but is it worth another 4 or 5 hours of carving time? So you're the best judge of how to use your time. So, but as far as the software is concerned, it doesn't care. It really doesn't care. It'll calculate 10 more bits if you want to. So suicidal at all times makes a good point here. More tool changes equals more chance of a mistake, rezero missteps, etc. Yes, that is true. However, that's confidence in your machine as well. I just speaking for me personally, when I've got a long carve coming up, like a 3D carving, even if I've already run it earlier in the day, I will go around and do a little bit of quick basic maintenance, which is basically checking couplers, checking bearings, checking nuts, bolts, etc., making sure everything's tightened, relube the lead screws, things like that. Make sure that I'm as set and ready as I can be to go ahead and hit cycle start and let it start carving. Because if it has to go 12 hours, I want to make sure that it can. I don't want to have something sneak up on me. So yeah, I'll grab an Allen wrench and I'll kind of snug on my couplers to make sure that they're not loose or on the verge of coming loose, and tighten up bearings and what have you. As far as mistake rezeroing, that's a valid point, because if you use a touch plate, it is possible to break the tip off of one of those teeny tiny tapered ball nose bits just touching off to set your Z0. So you may need to rethink strategies on that. When I get into the new shed, I do plan on doing a video on that. It's just still up here. It's not even down on paper yet. A couple of different strategies for setting 0 with tiny, tiny bits that would shatter if you tried to use a touch plate. And they are out there, believe me. All kinds of bits that would just shatter if you try to use a touch plate, even if that's a spring-loaded touch plate. You know, when you're talking about something that is a quarter of a millimeter in diameter, that's not much. You know, I dropped a end mill that had a 23 thousandths of an inch diameter, which I think I figured that out one time in millimeters. Let's see what that is. 0.23 inches in millimeters. And that is, yeah, that's a half a millimeter bit. I dropped it. It never saw a piece of material. I opened up the tube, shook it out into my hand. It rolled out of my hand and tested how strong the concrete on the floor was, and shattered into 3 pieces. Never even put it in the chuck. So, but tiny bits like that, you can break. So, let's see. As far as everything else is concerned, though, I do use my touch plate. So, Marcello Bayonne wants to know, what do you do to your control box to keep dust out? This is not going to make any sense to anybody other than Marcello, because he and I have been emailing back and forth here lately, almost identical to what you have, Marcello. The control box is in another enclosure with an input fan and an exhaust fan, but I use old t-shirts as a filter over the inlet. And when it starts getting caked up with dirt and dust, I hit it with a nylon brush that's actually very soft bristles. It's meant for cleaning rims on cars when you wash your car. Back in the automotive department, it's got the head on it is about the size of a grapefruit, and a plastic handle. It's real soft bristles for cleaning your aluminum rims. And I just use that as a duster brush, and it works like a champ. So, but other than that, I made a little MDF case with an input fan blowing in right into the drive box input, and then an exhaust fan sucking air out and blowing it out the back, and just a piece of t-shirt filter over that inlet. And it works. It's been working for going on 6 years now. So, well, let's see. I bought that in 2015. So, yeah, 6 years. So, let's see. Looking for more. Let's see. Rob Sandstrom, version 11 rest process sure helped with that time frame, only cutting areas, benefiting from the smaller tool. Rest machining has been around for a while, but I did a video on it, as a matter of fact, the old school way, where you had to basically go back and recalculate other things. And I was hoping at the time, I said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if Vectric made it to where you could use a clearance tool in the 3D finishing tool path? And lo and behold, they did. I never said anything to anybody. I just wished they would have done it. And yeah, it really does cut down on the amount of time, because you're not cutting the entire thing with that 1/32 of an inch tapered ball nose, you know. And let's see, cut a couple of my models in half. I assume you meant the machine time, but yes. Yeah, I meant the time cutting. Yes. You know, I find that the smaller the model is and the closer you're going to be to it when you're looking at that model, the more that detail really matters. I mean, unless it's something glaring like you can't see somebody's eyeball or something like that. But generally speaking, if it's going to be something hung up on a wall and you're down below it looking up at it, using a 1/8 inch tapered ball nose is pretty forgiving. And then just follow up the rest machine with the 1/16 of an inch. And I find that does pretty well. But let's see. Suicidal at all times. Them couplers grr. PTSD x-axis letting go 12 hours into a brass carve. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I haven't had a coupler let go. It came loose and turned about maybe 2 degrees. On the motor side of the coupler, it slipped. And I went through, you know what? This is the third time this has come up today. I'll put a link to a video I did 5 years ago, because I've linked it twice already today. A tool to help you with troubleshooting missed steps. If you have an axis that's losing steps and you have couplers on that axis, whether you're hooking into a ball screw, a lead screw, it doesn't matter, or even a belt drive, a cog belt, a belt cog rather, applying a slippage mark so that you can see. And what I'm talking about is down the face of the coupler, then out onto the motor shaft, and on the other side, down the face of the coupler, and then out on the shaft of the lead screw or the ball screw, whichever, so that you can see that slippage mark is lined up. And if one of them comes loose, the marks will be offset. You can immediately identify which coupler and which end of the coupler has come loose. It doesn't cure the problem. It helps you identify it immediately. So let's see here. I'll put a link to that video down in the description of this video. I just wrote myself a note as soon as we're done live here. So, and my neighbor just fired up his motorcycle. So if you can hear that, great. If you can't, perfect. Okay, let's see. John Rumley says you can get same zero on multiple bits using PWN CNC Speed Setter. I'll have to look into that. I have no idea what that is. But it might be something worth exploring. Thank you for that, John. I've never looked into it. Let's see. Michael Mazalik says, look at Micro 100 website, smallest bits available. I briefly had one micro tool that had a cutting diameter of 11 thousandths of an inch. I used it one time on one project, and it went with that project. It survived, but it went with that project, and that was drilling a hole in a PCB board. So, but yes, there are some very, very fine tools out there. Let's see. Steve says, my question arose from an issue I had Friday, was cutting a 2D sign. I have run the preview a number of times and everything worked perfectly. Steve, did I miss? Okay, here it is. When I put it on the machine and started the 1/4 inch end mill, the clearance tool took off the area where the letters were supposed to be. Whoops. Which took off the paint and aura mask where the letters were to be. Oops. Was this on a 3D carve, or was this okay, when you did your clearance tool path, let me bring open Aspire here, hold on, and I will make that the active layer so I'm not doing anything here. Okay. Close, and now, sorry, I should be better prepared. But I'm not. So share screen, share audio while I'm sharing that screen. Okay. Here, let me get over. Whoops, come on now. Get over into Aspire. When you do your when you do your 3D roughing toolpath, do not put your 3D roughing. No, not the profile mark. Come on. 3D roughing there. Do not put the 1/4 inch end mill in your finishing toolpath. Put your 1/4 inch end mill in a 3D roughing toolpath. Then down here, enter a machining allowance. Like you see right here, I have an allowance of 20 thousandths of an inch. That means when this end mill runs, the closest it's going to get to where that model is 20 thousandths of an inch. It's going to leave a minimum of a 20 thousandths of an inch skin over that model. And that's what your 3D finishing toolpath is going to come on and clean up. It's going to take away that 20 thousandths of an inch and anything else. But do not put your end mill in the finishing toolpath, because you're right, the end mill is going to come along and just surface whatever boundary you have here. Then the ball noses will come in and do what they can do. Do not use the end mill in the finishing toolpath if that's what you were doing. So let's see here. Okay. Mark Lindsay, CNC. These are mostly used for cutting wax or lost wax process for jewelry. Yes, he's talking about those tiny micro bits. I also know a guy down in Australia who is my absolute hero when it comes to inlays. This guy is truly an artist. His name is John, and his YouTube channel is Labels Extreme. He makes some of the most intricate inlays with various components, but mainly mother of pearl of various colors. And he is an absolute artist. I will Labels Extreme is his channel, and I will put a link to his channel down in the description of this as soon as we're done, so you can see the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I believe he doesn't post many videos at all. He hasn't posted a video in a long time. But I believe the last one he posted was on a Telecaster guitar that was, excuse me, ebony top, ebony fretboard, and ebony headstock veneer. And he did white mother of pearl inlay all the way around the body of the guitar, and that continued up the fretboard with a very elaborate 12th fret marker. And each fret marker dot on the fretboard was a claw holding a pearl. And he used various colors of mother of pearl to do this inlay. The guy is just absolutely amazing. And he uses some of these tiny, tiny bits to both carve the female and cut out the male. And he buys them by the dozen because he breaks them all the time. He's talking about, you're talking about feed rates that are single digits, and it just very, very shallow passes. But to get the tight tolerance he uses for these inlays, it's got to be done. And he has 3 different CNC machines, and some are specialized for doing this, while others are bigger, larger machines that he cuts out radius plates for making radius back acoustic guitars and things of that nature. The guy is just flipping phenomenal. But his YouTube channel is called Labels Extreme. That's also his website. I think my favorite thing he's done was he did a truss rod cover for a Gibson Les Paul. And we're talking about something that's maybe 1.5 inches tall. But it was that bell shape that a Gibson truss rod cover is. And he did an inlay of Stevie Ray Vaughan, his portrait, and his looking up, holding the guitar. I mean, down to the tuning pegs on the headstock of Stevie Ray's guitar. And it looked like Stevie Ray. It was about 5-6 different colors of mother of pearl. The guy is just amazing. So, well, anyway, enough fanboying over John. So, but yeah, Steve, just okay. It was a 2D carve, not a 3D carve. Wow. Okay, it's a different issue. So it wasn't that 3D carve you were talking about with the rest machining. Yes, I would ask you about start depths and your V carving and any other artwork. Did you project? Well, no. You must have had because there's no 3D content in there. It was all 2D. You must have had a start depth in there that wasn't expected, or didn't reset your Z0, or had some other issue. Yeah, that's weird. That is very weird. Because your preview did show it cutting in the right place. Then it should have cut in the right place. Again, like I said, unless there was a mistake on the Z0. So I don't know. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end this now. Good grief. We've already been on for 55 minutes. Next week, what I'm going to do is, I'll go ahead and say it now. Next Sunday's video will be Shop Shed update number 9. That way I can get that one taken care of. I'm in the process of editing it now. And then after that, so we're looking at probably, let's see, next week's video will be September 5th. And then after that, we're looking at September 19th. I had occasion to load Aspire into a new computer. Well, not new. My old laptop, which I don't use very often, but I will be using for the virtual user group meeting. I opened up that laptop, and the newest version of any Vectric software I had on it was VCarve Pro 9.5. So I took that occasion to screen capture everything, and I'm going to walk through the installation of Aspire version 11 on a second computer. How to do it all, from turning it on and discovering that I didn't even have Aspire on there, to logging into my V&Co account, downloading, installing, taking the tool database and settings from the cloud and installing it all and getting Aspire up and running on a second computer. I will also talk about how to do that without going online, because there are some folks who have a second computer that's not online, doesn't have online capabilities. Like me, I have a computer that runs the CNC, and that's all it does. It can't go online. So that'll be September 13th. And then after that, I'm not sure. But next week will be the Shop Shed update, and we'll go from there. This afternoon at 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 Eastern, Michael Mazalik has another video that looks absolutely killer. It is step-by-step instructional video of making the U.S. Air Force Chief Flight Nurse badge in Aspire. Now, yes, it's Chief Flight Nurse. However, learning how to make this badge is going to help you on just about any other kind of Air Force wings. So I can't wait. There's already a link to Michael's video down in the description of this video. So hope to see you there in a little bit more than an hour. Like I said, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. And let's see, what else have I got? I think that's all I've got. Yeah, I think that's all I have for this week. So next week, broadcasting from here, maybe I might be out in the shop shed. We will see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, I'll see you over at Michael's video, and until next week, go do something cool. Make some chips. Christmas is coming. I know I could have gone all week without saying that, but it's the truth. Get an early start. I'll catch you all next week, or I'll catch you over at Michael's video in about an hour. Y'all take care. Have a good one.